What's the fastest you've ever gone from caring about someone to straight up loathing them? Gave my roommate an envelope with a money order for bills in it to drop in the mail. He got arrested. While looking for some of his documents to take to him, I found the opened, empty envelope in his closet. Peace out. Hey, I was looking for your stuff, but all I found was another charge the police can pile on top. Decided to get into online Dungeons and Dragons. Got in with a group who was running a homebrew delve into a mind flayer hideout. Things were going great for the first few sessions until one encounter with a mind flayer. Player 1, I wanna give the mind flayer head pats. Me. Lol what? Quote. DM. The illithid's tentacled faces begins to writhe in pleasure. Player 2, I walk over and sniff the mind flayer's crotch and then wag my tail at him. Me. Guys, what the fuck, let's just kill it. DM. The wretched beast is becoming quite aroused. He extends his bony hands. 20 minutes of extremely graphic furry sexual roleplay later, I had to leave the group. I just wanted to play D&D. Man, this belongs in our RPG horror stories. When my best friend of 10 years slept with my boyfriend of 2 years. I was so crushed, but to be honest was more angry with the friend. I truly did believe that I was deeply in love with the boyfriend, but he was kind of a shithead to begin with. I saw my friend as a sister, and her betrayal left longer lasting impact and hurt way more. I hated her in a violent way for a very long time. Fast forward 11 years and now I am to a point where I have forgiven her and wish her well, but would never let her back into my life again. This must happen often. Something similar happened to me. Best friend of over 10 years slept with my boyfriend the moment we broke up. She did it because he did it to get back at me. Found out this girl I was getting close to had been lying about her ex being a deadbeat dad, and well, her ex, he wasn't just still in the picture. They lived together. I should have guessed after the third or fourth time she made an excuse not to go to her place. Never ended something so quick. Did we date the same woman? Partner of 3 years broke up with me via text while I was at work. I lost my job by leaving work immediately to go home. A complete wreck. To discover he had given his friends a month's notice so they all helped him move. And I was literally the last one to know. When he left suddenly like this. He had in his account the money I had raised for charity by shaving my head because of my father's terminal illness. Went from upset to level 1000 rage as soon as I realized this. Your boss is a boss for firing you for needing to take care of an emergency. Friend at a bar tells some people we just met how her mother died. Later in the night I express my sympathy. Now she's without parents. She told me hush hush a few years prior about how father had passed. Wait, did I tell you back then my dad died? I thought I told you it was my mum. No, both my parents are still alive. When we were in uni ***, I just read in a book telling people a parent has died is a good way to get sympathy. Haha. ***. Fucking sociopath. What an utter boss. Reminds me of a guy from my school who was in my acting class, and he used to pretend to break down and cry. Then when asked what was wrong would say, my mom, dad died, and after gathering a fair crowd, he'd laugh it off and say it was a joke. Yeah man, hilarious. He did this multiple times with multiple groups of people. My mother fought cancer for 5 years. My father let my sister and I do 95% of the work caregiving, and after her death expected us to step into her place and take care of him. Monsieur, the man I used to love and respect, is gone, and I can't stand to be around him anymore. There can be some serious burnout after the death of a loved one for whom you are a caregiver. Please take care of yourself. When my mom defended her daughter's rapist, who was my mom's then fiancé, and told us not to tell anyone it happened. Yes, I contacted the proper authorities. Yes, he is in the courts and going to be in prison. Edit. For those of you who want the full story, Here is the first post I wrote about it in May. Here. https www.reddit.com/r/comments/brx64/update_the_fiance_33_my_raped_my_14. Yo. Good. My, at the time girlfriend, had a little sister. She was graduating from college, and her college was not close by. It was a few states away, and at least a 5 hours drive. We both loved the sister, but we weren't going to make it to her graduation. We couldn't afford a hotel for the weekend, and we couldn't take off from work to get there on time. She freaked out on us. It was the biggest tantrum I've seen an adult make. My GF and I both assumed it wasn't that big of a deal. But seeing how much her sister freaked out, we reevaluated the situation. So, we packed up quickly, and drove through the night to get there. She told us we could sleep in her apartment that night, but that we'd need to get a hotel the following night. That was fine. We found something online for like $100 per night. We got to her place in record time. It was not even midnight. We felt like heroes for making up so quickly. We get to her apartment, and she won't let us in. She says she's already in bed, and we should have gotten there earlier if we wanted to take her up on her offer. So, we're both exhausted, and we have nowhere to stay. I wanted to just turn around and go back home. But my GF was a better person than me. Luckily we had other friends in the city, and one was nice enough to give us their couches for the night. It's been like 15 years, and I assume the sister was getting one last lay with a college hookup, because I could not imagine any other scenario where she couldn't simply walk down 2 flights of stairs to open the door for us. I ended up marrying the GF, and still bring up this situation anytime she gets in a fight with her sister. It's usually, "I can't believe how selfish my sister is being," and I go, "You can't. Remember that time we drove to her college GRA and she cuts me off?" Of course she also remembers it. When a college hookup is more important than your sister and her BF who drove 5 hours to meet you. My childhood friend, he lived pretty close to me and seemed like a nice dude until he stole my GoldenEye and moved to Minnesota. Fuck you, Derek. Yeah, fuck you, Derek. Talking to my then GF about her cheating on me, explaining I could never possibly trust her again. And she replied, "But do you really need to trust me?" Quote, clearly had different ideas on what's required for a healthy relationship. Greater than, "But do you really need to trust me?" Quote, LMAO. Fuck if that isn't honest communication. When he convinced his wife to kick her young kids out because they, the husband and wife, were finally having a child together, he was very open about hating his stepkids. Edit. Grammar. My grandma got my grandpa to put his wife in an insane asylum and get some kind of dissolution of marriage. They married, and before they moved to America, she forced him. They had 6 kids by now, 2 boys and 2 girls, and his son by his first wife and daughter, to give his firstborn son up for adoption. When he was 11, a few years pass in America, and my aunt, who is now 14, is given up to the state by my grandpa. I then found out that before she did this, the first several years in America, my aunt was fucking tortured. My grandma got my mom, aunt and uncles to piss on her bed, on her while she slept. She wasn't allowed to eat until everyone was done, and even then she has to eat what was scraped into the trash. There's tons more. My mom didn't let me read my aunt's memoir. I'm assuming because she was a horrible person to my aunt. She did similar things to me growing up. It made me look at my grandma, grandpa, mom, aunt and uncles differently. The only family I talk to are some cousins and my uncle who my grandpa gave up. He still lives in Europe and I speak to him using Google Translate. But I cherish our friendship. My aunt too, but she passed away a few years ago. was at my wife's family Christmas gift exchange. My wife is estranged from her direct family, so this was all of the uncles, aunties and cousins. There were multiple nieces and nephews running around having a good time. We all agreed to a white elephant exchange for the adults so we didn't have to buy a lot of gifts. We did that the night before and did the gifts for the kids in their morning. Morning rolls around and all the kids are opening gifts. Except my son. None of those entitled asshats got him anything. He sat there and watched everyone else open multiple gifts and it broke my heart to see him sitting there with nothing. Fuck those people right up their stupid assholes. Fuck anyone who would do that to a kid. You have a beef with the adults. Fine. Grown-ups can handle shit, but that kid doesn't need to be involved. It's never ever the kid's fault that some shit is going on in grown-up land. This made my blood boil. 1 year friendship with this girl. I invited her over to my new apartment. She came over and wanted to gossip about her coworkers. When she paused, I tried to add into the conversation. Make a joke, give reassurance, add a comment, etc. But she would immediately raise her voice and start talking over me. I kept getting angrier every time it happened until I was actually loathing her internally. She was so self-absorbed that she didn't notice I went from smiling and engaged to frowning while staring off into space. After 2+ hours of not being allowed to talk, I made up an excuse to kick her out of the apartment and then vowed to never see her again. Sounds like one of my current friends. Only has time to talk about herself. Doesn't care for my opinions unless it somehow contains her. Only asks about my life after she's run out of things to complain about. One summer back in high school years, I had a crush on this girl and we'd hang out when we weren't working together. A friend of mine would keep insisting that I should just ask her out. So I mustered my courage and asked her out. Yeah, it was a glorious fail. I still remember when she smiled and told me the truth. That was when I found out that they had been secretly dating for a year and thought it would be a lark to just fuck with me. 100-0 in a few words and a vicious smile. Like that. Except friend kept insisting that I lose my virginity to my boyfriend, who she was secretly fucking the entire time we dated. And they thought it would be funny if he took my V-card. My ex-girlfriend. We were childhood sweethearts. Dated from 17 to 25. Found out she was cheating on me with her boss, who is more than twice our age. Then proceeded to find out there was many more occurrences and she was a very different person than the person I'd been dating. Shuddered. That's almost exactly my story. But I didn't find out until I was 30. I feel for you. When my grandfather screamed at my mother that she had ruined his life by being born. Never spoke to him again after that. Damn. And my grandpa told my uncle that he was praying for hardship to enter his life so he could get closer to God. My uncle is probably going to have open heart surgery soon. So you know. Awesome dad.